You ready?
I'm ready.
Good? Camera 2, Twitter. Hi, Twitter. Hi, Facebook. And welcome to the first edition of Across the Goal Line Live. We're on Facebook Live over here. Twitter on this one over here. Going at the same time. Since the college football playoff rankings came out last night, Tuesday night, we thought, hey, why not do some college football playoff?
Yeah,
we were talking a lot about before we recorded today for the actual show, Across the Goal Line. That'll be up tomorrow on Thursday. So, as it stands, it's Alabama, Clemson, Michigan, and Texas A&M, and that's the one that is garnering a lot of discussion, I would say. A&M being at 4 definitely is the big one there. Also, Clemson jumping Michigan is also a little bit of maybe a stretch, possibly. I don't think it'll stand in the end, maybe, depending.
Yeah, one of these teams is going to lose, maybe 2. 3 of the 8 teams in the first 2 ever college football playoff rankings have only made the Final Four at the end of the season. And then as well, Clemson, I think, deserves to be ranked number 2 over Michigan. Michigan is beating Colorado, who is at number 15 right now. And they beat Michigan State last week in a close one on the road. They beat Penn State, blew them out, but that was a month ago. And then Clemson has beaten Louisville, who crushed Florida State the second week in the season, and then they beat Florida State last week. So Clemson deserves to be 2, in my opinion.
I mean, why don't we just go through the top? I mean, no arguments for Alabama, definitely.
No arguments for Alabama at 1.
Defending champion,
exactly.
Coming back, undefeated, have proven themselves in the tough SEC. Played a couple of pretty good teams already. Still have another test this weekend against LSU down in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, that's where college game day is at this weekend.
But yeah, big
games
win.
at 8 o'clock CBS Saturday night.
I think it was back-to-back weeks. I think Tennessee and A&M. Of course, Tennessee's dropped out of the rankings by now.
Yeah, they started out 5-0, but have lost 3 straight.
But they crushed them and A&M in like back-to-back weeks. Very impressive.
Yes.
Also, I mean, the Ole Miss game was a close one. That's not looking that great. Making that one look close. But Alabama, no arguments here. Definitely.
No, I really don't have anything to say about Alabama other than.
You already went through Clemson. You touched on Clemson already.
Clemson plays at home against Syracuse on Saturday. And then Michigan, as we said, is number 3. They host Maryland. The Terps are 5-3. I wouldn't be surprised if, the game goes to overtime. Maybe they even pull out the victory. DJ Durkin, head coach for the Terps, former defense coordinator under Jim Harbaugh last season at Michigan. So he knows what Harbaugh brings to the table. But Harbaugh, vice versa, knows the same. Number 4 was A&M, as you said, Corey. Texas Tech AD, Kirby Hocutt, who is the committee chairman for the college football playoffs, says Texas A&M was ranked 4th over Washington because of the strength of their schedule. I don't believe that because Texas A&M, they beat UCLA. The Bruins are 3-5 now. They did beat Auburn, who's coming in at 9, and then they beat Tennessee, as you said, in overtime, double overtime, I believe it was.
It was double.
Do we have any comments there on our Facebook Live?
Yeah, videographer for Twitter.
Hi, Lukey, Pooh, and Corey.
All right.
Hello.
Is it? How you doing?
A&M.
Going back, A&M. They're 4th. I think SEC bias is why they're 4 over Washington. They do have that 1 loss to Alabama, but Alabama's number 1 in the country. They're 8-0.
Yeah, that's the thing. That 1 loss to Alabama.
You get a shot there on Twitter. All right. But I don't think Washington should be 4 either, alongside with Texas A&M. Washington is undefeated, but the teams they have played include Rutgers, Idaho, Portland State, Arizona, Stanford. Stanford one was all right at the time, but Stanford's 5-3 now.
It was really good at the time because they crushed them.
They crushed them. It was 44-6, I believe. And then they also defeated Oregon State, and then Utah this past weekend in Salt Lake City. But the win-loss record for their opponents is 23-38 through the first 9 weeks of the season, which isn't that good, in my opinion. So if I had to put somebody at 4 right now, it would be Ohio State. You know, they're Buckeyes. The Buckeyes are at 6 right now, and that's where Alabama came in 2 years ago in the first ever college football rankings. And Alabama ended up losing to Ohio State in the playoff in the Sugar Bowl, and then Ohio State went on to beat Oregon in the national championship. But I think Ohio State should be 4 because they went to Oklahoma third week of the season, beat the Sooners. They went to Madison 3 weeks ago now, beat them in overtime, beat Wisconsin in overtime, and then they came here to Happy Valley to Penn State, game I was at, and lost. They just didn't play that well, but they host Nebraska this weekend, who's ranked 10th. You know, so I think Ohio State's schedule is way tougher than both Texas A&M and Tennessee at this moment.
I mean, Washington. Texas A&M and Washington.
Texas A&M and Washington.
Yeah.
Washington, as I said, Washington, the opponent's combined record is 27-38. And then, as I said, A&M, they've played the only loss is Alabama, who's number 1, and then they've beaten, Tennessee and Auburn. Tennessee wins iffy because, as you said at the time, we talked about this earlier too. At the time, Tennessee was undefeated. Yeah. They've lost 3 straight. So
that's the thing. Some of these you have to look at the time.
Yeah.
So at the time, Tennessee was looking really good. But then they lost to A&M. They lost to Alabama. They lost to Florida. They beat Florida. Was it?
Who?
Tennessee did. They actually got the
win. Yeah, Tennessee. That's Florida's only loss.
Yeah,
and Florida's coming in at 11 right now. And if they
they just lost last week to South Carolina. Tennessee did. So.
Yeah, and I think if Florida can run the table, and obviously they're probably going to win the SEC East, but they're going to have to go up against Alabama, Auburn, LSU. Still a lot of football to be played. Alabama plays LSU this weekend in Baton Rouge, as you said, and then Alabama and Auburn always play in the Iron Bowl at the end of the season. So. Who knows who's going to win the SEC West? And then, anyways, where was I at? Lost my train of thought. The SEC West. If Florida can run the table and win the SEC, the whole conference, they'll be in the playoff. But the thing with Florida, their offense is horrific. They cannot put up points. Their defense is, keeping them where they're at right now.
Yeah, that's why I got them losing this week to Arkansas.
All right. Yeah, I think I picked Arkansas as well.
Yeah. So,
check that out. Check that tomorrow.
Yeah,
episode 30.
Yeah, I'll get into that now. The top 4. A&M, I understand it. Of course.
Did I throw you off somehow? Did I go about something?
You were going off on stuff.
As I normally do.
You kind of glazed.
People know me.
You kind of glazed over Michigan there for a minute, and then went into the 4. Who should be at 4 possibly?
Yeah.
Kind of. So, Michigan at 3. Definitely makes sense. Undefeated in the Big Ten. Tough conference there. Haven't really played too many. I mean, Colorado is a pretty good win now, as you see it now. Of course, they're 15th.
Yeah.
But Wisconsin's their only real huge game, pretty much. I think that's the only game they really played. Of course, they play Ohio State at the end of the year.
Yes, Michigan. Yeah.
Yeah, Michigan.
I mean, that Penn State win is
it's looking better now.
It's looking better now because Penn State has
at the time
has been playing some good football within the past month.
But of course, at the time,
ranked 12th.
At the time, they were they at least had that one loss to Pitt. I think it was.
Yeah, and I guess we can talk about Penn State here a little bit.
We will a little bit. I want to try to get into the 4 here, the 4, the 5, 6. You talk about those 3 teams.
Let's talk about those now
then. You already went over a little bit. A&M definitely. I get it, but at the same time, Washington's undefeated.
Yeah.
That's one. That's the big thing that I think people are kind of targeting in on the fact that Washington is undefeated. If they do go undefeated, win the Pac-12, you have to let them in, right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter if A&M. Well, if A&M wins out, then it's like there's so many situations, of course.
There is, look at it. And it's only November 2nd today, folks.
Yeah.
We've still got a whole month of football to be played.
We still have a whole.
Yes.
We have multiple.
I was saying to you earlier too. You got Western Michigan now. They're 8-0 when the ranking came out. They actually played last night on a Tuesday night against Ball State. They won 52-20.
Yeah.
They're 9-0 now. If they win out, there's no reason why they shouldn't be considered for the playoff for the number 4 spot. I understand
True.
if they play in the MAC, but
Yeah.
still, if you go undefeated, that's pretty damn good if you ask me.
Yeah, but then that problem becomes exactly what you said. They play in the MAC. They don't play anybody super
and then
good.
and then also if these other top teams at the moment still finish strong,
Yeah.
and finish
It's
undefeated.
impossible. You know.
They won't. The Western Michigan Broncos and PJ Fleck, as they row the boat up there in Kalamazoo, they won't be getting in, and then the talk will be to expand the playoff to possibly 6 or 8 teams, and maybe have a playing game if you go to 6. You know how baseball has the wild card games to get in the playoff. Maybe something along those lines.
Yeah.
So moving on.
Well, no,
Or you stick with A&M.
I'm going with it. I'm still sticking with A&M.
All
I
right.
haven't really gotten too much through that. A&M, that one loss to Alabama is definitely why the committee has them right there. They've lost their only losses to the top team in the country.
Yes.
I mean, you can't knock them for that.
Which I can understand.
I mean, that Tennessee win that you alluded to doesn't look that impressive right
No.
now. It was a really close game. They almost lost that game, of course, double overtime.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand it. I don't like it per se because I think undefeated trumps it a little bit, in my opinion. You even talked about Western Michigan just a second ago. If you're undefeated, you have to have consideration. Of
Yes.
course. It is early, so it makes sense now. I see what you're saying about Ohio State. One lost to Penn State, who have jumped up in the rankings now thanks to that win.
Thanks to that win, but Penn State also has victories over Temple, who is 6-3, Maryland, who is 5-3, and Minnesota, who is 6-2 in the Big Ten West, and then and they still have a chance to win the Big Ten West and possibly play in Ohio State or Michigan or even Penn State in the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah.
And they also beat Ohio State, as you said, and that's what got them into the rankings. And then they put up 62 last week in the West Lafayette against Purdue. And it shows you what strength the schedule can do.
Exactly, and that's exactly what Texas A&M is at for. But yeah, Ohio State, I see what you're saying, but they had that win against Wisconsin, right? And you said there was another one maybe?
Ohio State, they play Nebraska this weekend.
They play Nebraska this weekend.
Who's 10th?
I'm talking about now that they already have.
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
They went to Norman and beat Oklahoma.
Which it was a 3-14 match, if I remember correctly, at the time.
Week 3 of the season.
I'm talking about the rankings at the time.
And they beat them. They beat them pretty bad.
They beat them pretty handily, but of course, it's looking better now as Oklahoma starts playing better here coming down the end of the season rather.
Do we have any more comments there on Facebook?
Yeah, off topic. Who do you think's going to win Game 7 tonight?
Game 7 tonight?
I went through this in the show.
Go Cubs,
today.
go! I'll tell you that.
I took the Cubs because I said it after Game 5 that they're going to win in 7. So yeah,
I picked them.
Not because I want them to or anything, but
I picked them on March 31st, or actually first episode to win the World Series this year. So I have to stick with my gut. So Cubbies.
Because as you'll hear
who was that from too, by the way?
Shout out to Ryan Young for that question.
All right,
thanks. But yeah, as I went into on the show today, really coincidental how the Cubs were down 3-1 and might come back and win 3 straight, 2 of them on the road, just like the Cleveland Cavaliers did in the NBA just months ago.
Yeah.
I find that a little funny, so we won't get into it.
Listen to the show tomorrow. We already talked about it. We already recorded for this episode. Is there anything else?
Another question. Are the Mariners playoff bound in 2017? Probably by Dan Collins.
And
the Mariners.
Dan Collins. Check out Hardway Outdoors, too, by the way.
No.
Yeah.
The Mariners?
Well, it was Dan Collins.
Oh.
He has Hardway Outdoors. I was telling people to check him out.
I'm like,
You're welcome for the plug, but
no, not the Mariners.
The Mariners. It's hard to tell right now. Baseball for this season is not even over yet. Well, I'll let you know tomorrow. I'll get a hold of you. How about that?
I'm gonna say no. That's
So,
all I got.
You're gonna say no. I'll get
No
a hold.
analysis or
I'll get a
anything.
hold of you, Dan.
No.
One more question. Jared Weiner says we stole 6, so I'm assuming he's talking about Ohio State.
Yes, he's a big Ohio State Buckeye fan.
They can easily make it, of course.
I think he's over the loss 2 weeks ago against Penn State. I've talked to him about it. And then Ohio State, they had a big win against Northwestern home last weekend. But yeah, they still have a chance. As I said, Alabama.
My problem with that game is just like a one. Like, what was it? 4 points.
Yeah, it was 24-20.
Yeah,
final
4-point game against Wisconsin or Northwestern.
If
on your home field, right?
Yes. But as I said earlier, and you can check out on the episode tomorrow, Ohio State can't run the football. There's something wrong with their offensive line, and that's why they're not as effective as they were the first half of the season. And then also, as I said, Alabama was ranked 6th in the first ever college football playoff, and they made the college football playoff rankings, and they made the playoff, losing to Ohio State, who beat Oregon, as I just stated a little bit ago. So Alabama, Ohio State, they're fine. As I said, I think they should be 4 right now over both A&M and UW.
I think their position's just fine at 6.
Yeah, any team.
Louisville at 7 makes sense because they've already played the 2 best teams from the ACC already. And won 1, lost 1.
Yes.
So they're not really going to do anything. They have to have people lose, obviously, I think, because that loss to Clemson, they're not going to be able to jump Clemson unless Clemson falls apart. And so Louisville, I think they're stagnant at 7. They're not going to really do anything to get up there. Wisconsin, we talked about it earlier. They can easily make the college football playoff because out of the West, they don't have too much competition.
No, right now. And if they went out and win the West, go to the Big Ten championship game, they're going to be playing the winner of that Michigan-Ohio State game more than likely.
Yeah.
As I said, Penn State could still run the table and represent the East. They need Michigan to lose twice. Michigan could lose this weekend on Maryland, who Penn State beat. Penn State plays Iowa at home this Saturday night on Big Ten Network. And then Michigan goes to Iowa City next Saturday, the 12th. So Michigan could lose in back-to-back weeks, and if Penn State wins, we got a 3-way tie, and Penn State's going to own all that because Michigan lost twice, and they own the head-to-head over Ohio State. So Wisconsin could easily, no doubt, be in the top 4.
Those 2 losses are to Ohio State and Michigan, and they played them great in both games. They played them real tough,
Yeah.
Of course, they lost on home turf to Ohio State and played really well against Michigan.
In overtime.
At the Big House. In overtime, yeah.
Against Ohio State,
played Michigan really tough at the Big House. So.
That was Michigan's first big test of the season.
And their only real big win, on the large scale things, of course, Colorado was looking really good, except they were kind of down that game against Colorado. They had to come back to win that one.
I think they got lucky that week. Because Colorado's quarterback went down with an injury and their backup had to come in, and anytime you bring a backup quarterback in, especially if you're playing at Michigan in the Big House, it's that's even tougher.
I'm just kind of going through the top 10 right now. Auburn at 9, like where they're at, they can easily make the playoff. They're another team that can easily make it.
And they've lost to Clemson and A&M, who are 2 and 4 respectively.
Yeah, 2 teams in the top 4 themselves. So
yeah,
I mean, they played Clemson really tough. I know that. It came down to what a Hail Mary it was at the end of the game.
Yeah, opening weekend.
And then the A&M game, they had their own blunder where the quarterback ran out of bounds on 4th down.
Yes, at the end of the game.
At the end of the game. It's stupid play. But they're right there. They're getting their stuff together here at the end of the season, picking up some big wins here. What was it? It was 2 weeks ago. They crushed was it Arkansas or was it Ole Miss?
Auburn blew out Arkansas.
It was Arkansas,
56-3,
and that's what got them back up into the rankings. And then this week it was last week
because Arkansas is that team. They can
ruin you
exactly, and
they can get that one loss on your record that just takes you out.
Yep.
But then 10 is that it's Nebraska. You already talked about them playing Ohio State this weekend. Their loss to Wisconsin last week in overtime on the road. Not a terrible loss by any means.
No, Nebraska's perfectly fine where they're at 10.
Yeah.
If you ask me. But if you had to ask me to re-rank the top 10, Corey,
re-rank the top 10? All right.
I'd go Alabama, Clemson, Michigan, Ohio State, Louisville, Wisconsin at 6, just because it hung in there with both Michigan and Ohio State in a 3-week span. They had a bye week in between those 2 games. and then Washington just because they're undefeated, and then A&M at 8, Auburn at 9, A&M at 8 because they beat Auburn head-to-head, and then Nebraska at 10. So that's how I'd re-rank the top 10 at the moment. But as we've said, and as I've said a lot, there's still a lot of football to be played. Another 4 weeks. Anything can happen. That's why they play the games. The game's not decided on a piece of paper. It's decided on the field.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about Florida some.
We're going to talk about Florida some.
They're at
How about
11.
we just? How do you want to do? You want to go through like 10 down and see who, like, kind of go through who might have a chance.
Sure.
In these like
Sure.
lower than 10 right now.
Yeah.
Because all those teams in the top 10, except for probably Louisville, I feel has a really good chance to make it. Louisville would probably has the least amount of chance out of the top 10, if you ask me. So you want to go through the top or
We'll go
10 and down.
We'll go 10 to 25.
10 and 25. Who might be able to make it?
Nebraska, they're at 10.
Yeah.
Lost Wisconsin last weekend. Obviously, you need Wisconsin to lose, but they could be representing the West in the Big Ten championship game. Florida's at 11, as we said. They lost to Tennessee. They're in the hunt. As I said, they just can't. Their offense is awful. Penn State's at 12, coming in at 6 and 2. I was actually a little shocked, a little surprised last night watching the rankings come out on ESPN there. I was thinking they'd be about 15, but I'll take it. All Penn State fans will take it. Being ranked 12th, they're in an even better situation than they, were the other day. Their 2 losses, as you said, were to Pitt and Michigan. Pitt has lost. Pitt is 5 and 3. Pitt's only losses are to Oklahoma State, North Carolina, and Virginia Tech, who are also all in the top 20. So those are good losses for Pitt, and then that makes Penn State look even better because those are good losses, and then the Pitt loss is good. It all equals out. Mm-hmm. And then Michigan's obviously 3rd, so we don't really need to say anything about that. And as I said earlier, Penn State has wins against Temple, Minnesota, Maryland, and Ohio State. All good wins, and they have 2 good losses. So there's no doubt Penn State could be in the mix if they win out and they need some help from Maryland and Iowa this weekend. And then Ohio State at the end of the year. Ohio State needs to beat Michigan 2 days after Thanksgiving. It's hard to believe it's Thanksgiving already.
Getting that.
But we'll leave that at that for Penn State. LSU's at 13.
They have probably the hardest road of any.
I agree
of
with
these
you.
teams.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. They
There's-
play
the remaining schedule is the hardest
Yes.
left among any of them, according to at least ESPN's football index.
Yeah.
Because they play Alabama this weekend. They got Florida in that game that got rescheduled.
Yes.
But they got it at home, so that's fortunate for them, at least in that game.
Yeah.
And then they play A&M to finish off the season.
They also play at Arkansas as well.
At Arkansas, who we already mentioned, is a team that can just take you out,
Exactly.
out of nowhere.
Yeah,
They're a team that come out of nowhere and shock you. So LSU,
as Randy Orton likes to do sometimes.
yeah, but LSU is a team that starting to play better now after firing Les Miles.
Les Miles, yeah.
Haven't lost Leonard Fournette, getting into Heisman form again, looking like a contender possibly. Although of course Heisman, Lamar Jackson, of course, Jabril Peppers, and Jake Browning's probably up in there. If Baker Mayfield keeps going, he'll be there. Maybe too. Baker Mayfield, he's playing well now. It depends on how he plays later.
Leonard Fournette, the Alabama game last season at Tuscaloosa, lost him the Heisman.
Yeah.
He had, I think it was 19 carries for 36 yards, if I'm not mistaken. And Derrick Henry won the Heisman, that game. Because he did, 10 times better than Fournette. But LSU's a good chance, but they have a tough schedule. They got to win out, win the SEC West, win the SEC. If they do so, there's no reason why they shouldn't be ranked number 1,
Yeah.
Oklahoma.
Considering who they would have beaten.
Exactly.
You're talking about 3 teams that then, Florida's not in the top 10, but almost 3 teams in the top 10.
That's close enough.
Yeah, so you're talking about beating 3 teams like that. Amazing.
Yeah. Oklahoma came in at 14. They lost opening weekend to Houston at NRG Stadium, home of the Texans.
Which, I mean,
which was a good loss, but
in retrospect, at the time, yes.
But Houston has lost to Navy and
Yes.
SMU.
That's where the problem comes in, obviously.
But then they've also lost to Ohio State, who's 6th. So Oklahoma, I think Oklahoma's sitting pretty. I think they probably have the best chance to get back to the playoff as they did last year.
Out of the Big 12,
as of right now.
probably.
But the Big 12 race is wide open as well.
Yeah.
They got to go to Morgantown, which is a real tough place to play.
They still have to play the
on
toughest
the
of the Big
19th, and then they also have to play Oklahoma State and Bedlam the last week of the season. So Big 12 race is wide open. We'll get more here in that second because Baylor and Oklahoma State and West Virginia are 15 to 20.
But Oklahoma starting to play better now. Those 2 early losses in the season, they look doomed. Coming back now, haven't lost since, obviously. 2 good losses. I mean, come on. I mean, opening weekend of the season, fine. It was a fine loss. I think it wasn't like they didn't get blown out by Houston. So
They lost on a kick 6.
Yeah,
That's how they lost. They lost on a kick 6. For
Ohio State didn't look that great, but of course Ohio State's 6th at the moment. It is good because of their ranking, of course. So yeah, Oklahoma definitely. They're probably the most likely out of the Big 12 that could probably make it.
because they haven't lost a game in conference.
That too.
So
They're undefeated in the Big 12. Their 2 losses are non-conference against, at least Houston at the time was, Houston with that first week of the season, they were in the top, were they in the top 10 at that time, I think? It was 3 versus
Houston?
6. It was 3 versus 6.
yeah, Houston was ranked pretty high there at the start of the season.
So,
do
I
we have any
mean,
more comments on there on Facebook?
Yes, Will Greer says, will the Timberwolves make the playoffs this year?
Well, you'd already know if you listened to our NBA preview. What was that, a couple weeks ago, Corey?
yeah.
I actually had Timberwolves in the playoffs.
I didn't because of their
I believe it was either a
Eligibility.
6, 7, or 8 seed. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, I do have the Timberwolves.
I
Make
did not have
playoffs.
the Timberwolves in because of their youth. There's so much young talent there. They will be good, I do believe, within the next year or the year after because of Karl Anthony Towns is still developing, but he's still a monster anyway. Of course, you got Wiggins and Levine, rather, is he's starting to play really well now, coming into his own on the offensive end, not just a dunker anymore. He can shoot some threes for him.
The only bad thing about them right now, Rubio's out indefinitely, isn't he?
Yeah, he's hurt. He's a facilitator. It helps. He's not really a scoring option at all at the moment. He hasn't really developed that part of his game at all in the NBA. That was the thing that worried a lot of people when he came out from Spain, his offensive game, because he still is a flashy passer. But yeah, the youth of the Timberwolves, they'll be good. Like I said, in a couple years, they might be contending in the West. Who knows?
Hey, Will,
they do.
How's Chicago right now? Is it pretty lit? And then also, if they win, you still good to come on the show next week?
Last thing about the Timberwolves, if they do make it in as like an 8 seed or something, and they play the Warriors, I actually like their chances a little bit because of Karl Anthony Towns. He'll be able to take whoever the Warriors put down in the post because that is the weakness of the Warriors at the moment. They're down low game. They don't have anybody at the center position to guard some of these superstar centers in the league. So I do like them against the Warriors possibly because their youth will be able to keep up with the entirety of the Warriors, even if their death lineup. And also Tom Thibodeau as the coach. They'll be 82 plus games in by then, and he'll probably get them in the right frame, So,
Any more questions?
Ryan Young wants to know what you think about Russell Westbrook.
Russell Westbrook, I have him win the
NBA
MVP.
now. Really?
I have him win the MVP this season because at the moment he's averaging like a triple-double a game.
Yeah, he's put up. I think he was first player since Kareem I saw the other night to have 2 triple doubles in back-to-back games, but he scored 30-plus points in both games, I believe it was,
And
which is pretty amazing.
he was 51 in one of those, which is I think a new league high, 51 in a triple-double. But yeah, I have him win the MVP. He's really relishing that role of being the out-and-out guy in Oklahoma City without Durant being there. I think he's always kind of wanted it deep down to be that guy. he has a great cast around him. If we're talking about the Thunder in general with Oladipo, they just signed him to a big extension.
And Steven Adams as well.
Steven Adams, he's playing pretty well. Also, Cantor coming off the bench. I haven't seen anything from Sabonis at all this year. I don't think he's played at all, really. But still, great lineup with them. But, yeah, Russell Westbrook, I love it. I got him win the MVP this year because of no KD. He's going to do everything in his power to win games. That's what he's doing right now, so I like his chances.
Any more comments or not?
Also,
Nope.
Kawhi Leonard
No?
for MVP.
All right. If you're watching, if you have a question, comment and we'll answer it. That's what we're doing now.
Do you get any on the Twitter one?
Yeah, do you have
By
any,
chance?
you have any on Twitter?
No.
No?
All right.
Come on, Twitter. Come on. Going back to football now.
We were getting into Colorado.
15 in Colorado, yeah.
I don't.
They lost to Michigan and
Lost to Michigan.
USC, but I think their chances are pretty good too. They could possibly win the Pac-12 if you ask me. And then 16's Utah, also a Pac-12 school. They lost to Washington last week, and they also lost to Cal. Okay, the Cal loss is pretty bad, but then they're both in the South, so Colorado. I believe these two teams still have to play each other. I have to check up on that. But then I think Colorado has a better chance than Utah. if you ask me.
I don't think either of them has a chance per se because I mean look how the committee is valuing Washington right now as an undefeated.
That's true.
They're not really valuing the Pac-12 as a viable school. I mean that one loss to Michigan though by Colorado does help out a lot.
Yeah,
It's out of conference.
that is.
So
true.
essentially, they only have one loss in conference, so they'll be fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, Colorado, Utah definitely no. But Colorado, I don't think has that much of a chance, if you ask me.
All right, moving on now. Baylor, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia, as I said a little bit ago, come in from 15 to 20. 17, 18, and 20 is what they actually are. Baylor lost to Texas last week, and then Oklahoma State lost to Central Michigan on that Hail Mary at the beginning of the season. That's a bad loss. Oklahoma State doesn't have any chance. Neither does Virginia Tech at 19. They lost to Syracuse on the road, which is pretty bad. But then, other than that, I don't think there's really any other team. Baylor still could if Texas wins out.
That's a stretch.
But who knows? West Virginia still has a chance. But I just talked about them. They do play Oklahoma at home.
Yeah.
So, and then I already talked about Western Michigan. They're 8-0. There's no reason why they shouldn't be considered. If you ask me, they're 9-0 now. They won last night. If they finish undefeated, there's no reason why they shouldn't be considered. And then, other than that, I don't really think there's any other team because Boise State lost last week. Why not?
Yeah, they're screwed.
If they would have won, they'd still be in the hunt. But from 10 to 25, I think it's Oklahoma.
Oklahoma's the one team.
Oklahoma, just because they haven't lost in the Big 12 yet. But if they lose a conference game, they're down the drain. But then West Virginia as well, because all these teams still play each other, as I said. So
Yeah.
yeah.
11 through 25 even though I'm not probably going to go that far. Oklahoma is definitely one that looks like it has the best chance to, say, win out and make it. But, of course, Florida, I obviously don't have Florida because I have them losing this week to Arkansas anyway.
Yeah.
But LSU doesn't really have much because of their schedule going down the stretch. But if they do manage to do well in that, win out, no doubt. Oklahoma is definitely that one team that could easily make it out of these lower ranked teams. If I had to pick one of these teams from 11 and down, it would be Oklahoma.
But me being a Penn State fan there at 12, if they
Of course.
win out, there's no reason why they shouldn't be considered either, and I'm going to support them.
It's just
the whole way through.
But back to Oklahoma, it's just that problem with no championship game.
Yeah,
For the Big 12.
that hurts the Big 12.
I mean,
That
they
really-
almost,
that
they
really
probably
hurts
they
the
almost
Big
didn't make
12.
it last year because of no championship
Yes.
game. Those,
And they snuck in.
They snuck in. In fact, they did. You're probably more likely to see a team that's not in the top 4, in the top 10 at least, that'll come up and get through, like Ohio State or Wisconsin. A team like that is definitely more likely, I think, than any of those teams to make it through and get in. But out of the lower half, I guess, lower third, technically, I guess, it's Oklahoma for me.
Well,
Is that it?
other than that,
Any more questions, maybe? No?
is there any more questions on there?
Just real quick
No?
before we
Yes.
sign it off.
Is Tim Duncan worthy of the Hall of Fame?
No
It's
doubt.
not even a question.
Yeah, that shouldn't even be a
It's a
question.
fun question, bro.
Who'd that come from?
Dan Collins.
Dan Collins, grow up.
It's a fun question, bro. He's top 5 like all time.
Yeah. What
Period.
he said.
Then that's it.
Hey,
Caleb Taylor joined. If you want to say hi, Caleb.
what's up, Ike? How you doing? OH.
You're a little late. 'Cause,
Yeah, we're
we're done?
wrapping it up.
we're wrapping up here for our.
I mean, you can go back and listen to it.
Yeah,
I mean, he probably had something else going on, which is totally all right.
Yeah.
We'll have to see if how good this went. I think we did all right.
It was all right.
Could have been a little bit better. This was actually a
Yeah,
last
first-
minute thing.
Last minute.
Um,
Just thought of it.
We've actually
today.
been thinking about doing this week in and week out rather than just recording. But if you want us to do that, let us know. There's no reason why we can't. At the moment. But I thought this went all right.
Yeah, it went fine.
But with that, I think
Yeah.
I think we're gonna wrap it up as
We're
as
gonna
you
wrap
said.
it up for the first ever live edition of Across the Goal Line.
Yeah, as we talked about the Culture Bowl playoff ranking that came out last night.
Yeah, so episode's out tomorrow. Go check it out when it comes out. It'll probably be up.
Like this
later-
page.
Like this page. Yes,
Follow us on
definitely.
Twitter at ATGL16. Follow us on Instagram at ATGL16. Shoot us emails, comments, questions, whatever.
Yeah.
So, we appreciate it. Thanks for joining in.
Yeah. See ya.
All right, bye.